Do you want to keep it on, or do you want to take it off? Okay, so we can. Yeah. Okay, good, good, good social influence. So we can take it. All right. If that's yeah. Uh, okay, so I'm going to.
It's so much easier to hear you.
I know, and I have a terrible projection anyway. It's just awful. Sorry. Um, yeah, there we go. Only took. Oh, what is this horror down here? No, don't do that. I want the simplest thing. Okay, so this is this plot of points, right? So this is this. I'll just show you this quickly. This is the thing that we were looking at the other day. Um, you know about this, I guess, but I don't have a 3D is just so hard to render. Like when it comes to papers, it's a terrible thing to put in a paper. Like you try really hard to kind of show, but it's often just a disaster. Yeah, visualizations, of course. This is a very simple one, and you can see this. So this is, you know, and I've lost which axes are which, but this is valence, arousal, and dominance from the original study by Muhammad. And if these were uncorrelated, then you'd really see, you know, you would just, it'd be just a ball however you looked at it. But there's clearly a grain, right? So maybe if I turn that on to that makes it worse. But, you know, just messing around with it, you're like, oh, this is a muffin. I think if I drag it this way, you can kind of see it's a little more square. It looks pretty good that way. You know, there's kind of a good spread one way, but then it's yeah, right. Okay, so, you know, we've looked at correlations and so on, and then of course done this SVD thing, which I probably didn't really, you know, show you much of, but, you know, what it is really, this is what we start with. It's a VAD it's a matrix here. This is 3 dimensions by 20,006. It was 20,007, to be honest. I took out one profoundly offensive word. Anyway, so 3 words, VAD this way, and then words in, I think, alphabetical order. Not that it matters. Words. Yeah, yeah. So you can see there's some aardvarkers in there, which is good. But we talked about stretchable words, madness, and so, you know, it's good to see a few of those. A big hodgepodge of stuff. Okay, so yeah, you run SVD on this. It's 3 by 20,006. So the rank is 3. It's still going to be a 3-dimensional object. And I guess the SVD stuff is floating around. You know, there's the U and V and so on. They're floating around in other places. Okay, so do all that, and this is how we got to this story here. Right. So we look through this, and I want to move on from here because this is the underlying one for valence and dominance, and then the big reveal for this was going through this structure here. All right, so that's what we'll talk about today. I did want to go through some funniness here. I have a whole slide sandbox, which is, you know, some monstrous thing, and it gets longer as I dig things out of it and try to make them into pieces. This will go in somewhere, right? But this is the opening to the truth, which is one of them. Did you read it?
Yes, and they learn fire insurance in like fantastic.
Oh, early on.
Either
That's good memory.
Magic like fantastic is when they learn fire insurance from 2 flowers.
Nice. Anyway, it's a good, right. I mean, maybe I have it in there. I don't think I do. The rumor spread, you know, like wildfire. Since I learned the word fire insurance, you know, I mean, humans, right? Okay. You know, it's 41 novels, it's stories, and it's novels, and it is set in a fantasy world, but it's the great sociological treatise of our time, essentially, right? You know, Durkheim, Marx, those fine, but Pratchett's the one, yeah. I'm sort of serious about that. Okay, so just to show you the madness back here, this is You know, it's in MATLAB. I can't quit MATLAB. I mean, it's easy to quit. VI is the thing you can't quit, right? That's the joke. VI, any VI users? No, Vim? I should say Vim. No. No one has taken the dark path of.
I know that's the one that it's impossible to get out of the console.
Yeah, colon Q,
It's like
exclamation point. To see things. No, it's really, but it's a fanatical following. It's really, it's because the way you type. Anyway, yeah. No, people, the VI people get very angry about Emacs. They hate Emacs people. I don't know. It's just, yeah. Anyway, remap the caps lock key to control, and then that's what you have to do to make the world better. Anyway, so that's a little piece, but I have a few other things that are going to go into some places. Okay, walkie-talkie. I'm just going to show you some fun things here. Walkie-talkie dialect, right? So if everything was called something like a walkie-talkie, you walk with it and talk with it, right? It is a ridiculous naming, and I don't know. I haven't looked this up. There was a tweet a couple of years ago, 2018, which is linked down here. But so stamps, you could maybe guess what's a stamp if it was in walkie-talkie speak. What do you do with like postage stamps? Sticky's good. It's a licky sticky. Defibrillators? That's really good. It works. It totally works. There is a different one actually, but that's good. What's a taser then? You want to say a saddy zappy. An unhappy zappy. There you go. Okay. It's a hardy starty. Hardy starty. Bumblebees. What was this one? It's fuzzy. And what else do they do? Yeah. Good. Pregnancy test. So it's whether you're going to have a. You're good. Fork. Yes, it's good. It's really good. It sucks. They go on your. You put them on what? What do you put them on? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is just a little. This is just someone's tweet. So they. Foodie booty. Yeah, that's right. This is good. Hippo. The water horse, right? A hippopotamus is a water horse. River horse. Just think of like hippos. They're so murderous. Maybe a hippo hydromus or something. Yeah. A floaty bloaty. It's a little rude. Okay, it's a little rude. Screaming dreamy. Is that? See, I'm going to fix that right now. Let's do that. So. Geography one is excellent. All right. Wordle is good. Let's bring up Wordle. Sorry, we're gonna. Right, this is fine. Wordle. Yeah. I think you can do some settings, but this is the default. Which country is this? I think it's only. Okay. There you go. And if you miss it, it's well done. That was good. If you miss it, it'll tell you which direction it is and how far. Which is only helpful if you know where your country. So I always. It's often like. I always think landmark countries first because I don't know what the country's borders look like for most Well, I gotta say, American students are famously terrible at geography. They get some passing knowledge when there's an invasion of somewhere, but I think Ukraine is sort of somewhere like that, right? I mean, um, but that was good. No, it's generally. I mean, I'm sorry to say, it's just generally.
I mean, sometimes the world will give you like random like territory islands that absolutely nobody has ever heard of.
They had Svalbard the first time I did it. I was very excited about that because you could see like the scratches in it as well. So it's like clearly glacial. Um, that was very enjoyable. What else? The other one was Solomon Islands. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
fun.
that was the first one I did, and
Yeah.
I was like, I the thing, we go somewhere like
It looked
South
like a
America,
Pacific. It looked like a
and then it
Pacific
was
island.
like, keep going,
Yeah,
and we were like, all right,
Pacific's a big place. Yeah,
yeah.
so you could get lost in there, as people have done in the past. My brother-in-law was. This is a complicated thing. He was born there. He's a New Zealander, but he was born there. His father studied there as a. He's a geographer, ethnologist, and his grandfather fought there in the Second World War. Um, so I sent it to him. He got it. Uh, Wordle. But we can't do this again, right? Because is it a 24-hour thing? Yeah. Right. They really went with that. There's unlimited Wordle, but yeah. So I fixed up this horrible thing there. Ambulance. I'm gonna give you a few more. These are like all these kind of replies, and so a couple more.
Whaler trailer.
That's not bad. Whaler trailer. It's pretty good. Oh my god. That's true. It's pretty. It works. It's the noise and what's happening inside. Sandy Mendy. Whaler trailer might be. Yeah. A miniature sausage dog. Miniature. Yeah. Right. A teeny weeny.
Oh, that's what I knew in the base.
I mean, you basically got that. A shot glass. It's tiny. It's like a little.
Yes.
It's dinky drinky. A life jacket. Bodie Cody. Not bad. Bodie floaty. Low fat desserts. We'll stop this in a little bit. So this is oh. Big avocado got you with this kind of garbage manipulation. Healthy fats theory. That's amazing. Every day is a day of something, right? At least one thing.
Lately, I've been looking up every morning what day it is.
Sandwich day. Low fat desserts. Fakey cakey. And a cat. This is my contribution actually. I mean, this is one I made up. So something they do. They have a number of behaviors. When they're happy. Hmm. I didn't put IE on it. Anyway, that was good fun. Okay.
Katy Perry's cat's name is Kitty Purry.
Oh my god. I'm sure someone has that cat. Like, there are probably a lot of people who have a cat called that, but it's also her, right? Wow. Like, that's not every day. We're really doing it.
Yeah, it was
This is it. So this is quite interesting. There are a couple of things happening with this. This is quite interesting. So, so you don't have to do this, but if you wanted to try and write this down, I'd like you to do it. See if you can. I flicked the thing. That didn't matter. So you're going to describe a knife, right? So as in it's a something, 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 something knife. And you have to arrange these adjectives, right? A little knife, a lovely knife. So if you want to put these two, would you say a little lovely knife or a lovely little knife? Right. So see if you can order all of these into something that makes sense.
Like the most coherent adjective uses.
Yeah, just like you'd want to say it, right?
I almost started writing steel. Oh,
So steel is the material, right, that it's made from.
but I started writing almost knife after every single word.
Just to sort of talk about all these adjectives, Victorian's origin. Whittling is purpose, rectangular shape, orange is color, old is age, lovely is an opinion, little is size. How do you feel about it? Should we look? So you can do it sort of pairwise, right? Just to sort of, like, how would you take two at a time? And the ones on the next slide are wrong. They're just like orange lovely knife, right? This is just terrible. Obviously wrong. Why? So I mean, you're of a linguistics background, so you might know all this, but you know all this.
I think I have a suspicion I know where you're going with it.
Okay. Rectangular old knife, like a square young knife, young square knife. That's kind of weird. Victorian little knife. This could be different things, but I'm thinking of like the state I'm from in Australia, which of course is Queen Victoria. Little Victorian knife. That sounds better. So it's not about how the sounds of the words, right? It's conceptual. There's really a meaning ordering here. Whittling little knife. You'd say little whittling knife, right? So clearly, sort of, it seems, and you could then change other things like carving knife, carving little knife. That doesn't work. A big carving knife. That's fine, right? So size and then purpose. This is terrible. A whittling steel Victorian orange rectangular old little lovely knife. Like that just is confusing to listen to try and pass. Okay, so this, in general, this is what, at least in English, and I don't know about other languages, that people do this, and it's one of those things we're generally not aware of. So there's opinion. So lovely, little, old, rectangular, orange, Victorian, material steel, whittling knife. So that would be this. And we generally do this, which is weird. Right, and so this is from from an article here. It's a BBC article. So this is a quote. Didn't feel like it to start with, but if you mess with it, right, you'll sound like a maniac. You'll just sound weird if you mess with this, even though no one is thinking this out loud. Almost none of us could write it out. It's a pretty weird. It'd be a cool thing to. I mean, obviously it's discovered and understood, but it's kind of enjoyable. Okay, but there are some exceptions, and the exceptions are really enjoyable. I mean, there are probably lots of different cases, but so this is going to be a separate kind of thing. So this is ablaut reduplication. So we don't say talk tick. I mean, some of these are onomatopoeias, right? So you kind of like you're copying something, but we're going to say tick tock. There's a bunch. Hip hop, bing bong. Like if you, I'll try to say the other ones. Like hop hip, bong bing, pong ping. So flop flip. um, just so you know, in Australia, flip flops are called thongs, which is just a disaster, obviously. So ping pong. There's a. This is kind of enjoyable. We grew up saying this is gnip gnop. Have you heard that? Yeah, because it's it's reverse, which is fun, right? But it's also gnip gnop, gnip gnop. It's sort of it makes you reverse the word and you kind of get an onomatopoeia out of it. Gnip gnop, gnip gnop. Clop clip, but that's this is sort of we think this is like what you do with coconuts if you're pretending to be a horse, for example. Clop. Dally dilly sounds terrible. Patta pitta is patta pit and pitta pat. If you do the spelling bee, that's one that pops up down there. Zigzag, but not zag-zig. Zag-zigging. You zagged and then zigged. You can't do that. You can't zag and then zig. You have to zig first, which is and then there's not mo. So this is now we're in meditation. This turned into something else, but it's and it's like, and you can help me with this, but it's like you're moving. They're all vowel type things, right? But when you get to it's coming out of the air's coming out of your nose at that point, right? You've blocked your mouth with your tongue. But all those things are vowels. The air is just coming out, and you're moving the constriction this way. So goes this way. That's not everything, but it's like like if I've got this right, these things are like it's easy to go forward in your mouth. So if I got that right. So yeah. But coming it seems weird, so we don't do it. So that leads to some weird things. So this overrules the right? So this is what we had before, but then Little Red Riding Hood is okay. This is the same thing, right? So we've got size, color, and then purpose, riding. It's a hood for riding. But we don't do it for Big Bad Wolf. It should be Bad Big Wolf. Right? It's opinion and then size. It should totally be Bad Big Wolf. But that sounds wrong because this really fundamental thing about how we like to use the instrument of our voice, we want to go this way.
Could you also say that the bad is not an opinion in that case? It's like just a description like Victorian. It's like a category of wolf.
Okay. Like an ancient word that meant more like
nobody thinks it's the good wolf. It's not really an opinion. It's like constructed into the story that it's a bad wolf.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
That's
Okay, so maybe because Well, if you can destroy it, I think that's good. I'm trying to think of it. You mean like it's got attached to it, so this is now like just a term.
Yeah.
I mean that's sort of true here as well, but if you break it apart, that's its structure. There's the little bad wolf and the big bad wolf.
Essentially.
There are all these bad wolves over here. Or as my oldest daughter used to say, woofers. The woofers. So, well, here's one where it really matters. So all of this is kind of a funny thing, but this is something we ran into. One of us, Tyler Gray, one of our students, uncovered this in Twitter data. But lon lat, right? So lon lat, longitude latitude is horizontal, right? That's is horizontal vertical, right? That's XY. That's good. That's what we're really stuck on, the XY framework. But it doesn't sound, it's bad, right?
It's so
You can't say lon lat. So lat lon sounds great. So we say that, but now we've got YX. And now there's an example. So there's an example that, and maybe I have it. Yeah. So we had a example with this years ago with JSON from Twitter. You would have within one package for one tweet both versions, XY and YX, a lat lon and a lon lat. And so, I mean, it was discovered when all the tweets appeared in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You know, it's like, I guess that's right.
This morning, they were trying to do something with like Earth-centered, Earth-flat coordinates.
Okay.
Which is like 3, like X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But they still do it, like, because you're converting it.
Lat lon first?
Lat long. So it's like you want it to be X, Y, Z. When you do the conversion, it comes in Y, X, Z. And I was like, why is this like database that we got from the data set we got from like Kaggle like wrong about where coordinates of like Cairo, Egypt are? And I was like,
it's YX. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Y, Z.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrific. It's really bad. But it's like this really primitive linguistic thing, you know, it's like sitting in out of the way of the brains are connected to this tube that we have here for which, you know, the talking part is pretty, what is it, the fourth or fifth sort of usage of it? Like there's breathing and eating, and the talky part came, you know, kind of got strapped on top of that later on to everyone's disappointment. So anyway, that's just a, but there's a good reason for it, and but it's something to be very careful of. And I think I've lost the last piece here because there's too much on that. Let's see. There's too much on that thing. It just said be careful with geodata. Oh, and then there's I'll have to fix this slide up. There's a footnote here that's missing its piece, and that's to the Could Have Been Champions, which was a comedic group in Australia that did, you know, sports commentary, sort of a lot of these groups really. But they would have someone come on and talk about it's the exception that proves the rule. Every rule has to have an exception. Once you have an exception, then it proves the rule. So it's just ridiculous way to think about things. Very Trailer Park Boys kind of logic. Yeah. All right. So that's good. I've wanted to put that together for a while. Yeah, all right. So maybe a big bad wolf. Bad wolf is one word. All right. That was fun. National Goofing Off Day. Okay. So I did I'm sorry, it's terrible. I did show this to you guys before I started, or did I? Yeah, this thing. All right, I don't know if I was recording. This is valence, arousal, dominance, right? So there's our thing. Yeah, let's go back to this. Yeah. Okay, so we know this is not right, so we do SVD, and that gets us to this, and this is where we're gonna. Okay, I thought it was exploding, but it did not explode. All right. Let's try to understand this. So the scripts that I've used tonight, I talked a little bit about the other day. You know, these histogram things, the names of them are things like Fig Ooziometer 9000.m. Gotta have 9000. So that's a trope, HAL 9000. They have very silly names like that. Anyway, so yeah, this is the, again, sort of stepping away from the 3D thing. We're just going to look at that big mess from 3 different sides. And we see, you know, if you just sort of look at it from this side, it's not so bad, these histograms. But once you do SVD on it, you see, oh, there's a real grain in this thing that's not lined up with the axes. So they're the 3 different versions, right? So it's valence is going to be on the bottom of these first 2, arousal, dominance, and then the third projection is arousal and dominance. So they're all meaningful things. They look good, right? I mean, low valence and low arousal is no emotion and void. You know, awesome and exhilarated, kind of, it totally works. But then so it's also sensible, but we know they're correlated. So let's rotate around and look at it from a different axis. So that's what we did here. I did sort of introduce. We're going to dig more into it. But now, and these are just made up terms, goodness and energy, right? These are made up terms just by observation. And we're going to have to sort of defend this, but these are definitely things that have good. They're good, right? So peace, angel, triumphant. These are all good kind of words. There's a goodness in them, and these are bad. So blah blah blah. You could call this valence still, right? I mean, this is easily interpretable as valence, but we have it up here, and I didn't want to say valence prime or something else, right? So for the purposes of having three different, or having at least these first two, this SVD is what happens here, right? This is the straight result of SVD. Trying to interpret this, when we rotate around, what is this? What are the axes here? So goodness and valence kind of have the same meaning to them, but they're what goodness is a linear combination of valence, arousal, and dominance, and we'll get that. I think it's on some slides that are coming. And then this is kind of an energy thing, which again is like arousal or activation. It's a similar kind of thing, but these are, down here we have couch and cotton, siesta. So this is definitely low energy, battle, nuke, firearm, right. So these are kind of high energy things. Now that might not be enough. Energy might not be really what it is, but it's not bad at this stage as we're sort of unpacking this thing. This is an exploratory work. So very good and high energy is success and triumphant. Very low energy and bad is weak and penniless and so on. So it seems okay. High energy and bad is murderer, assassinate. Calmness and tranquil is over here for good, but low energy, right? And you kind of get this sense like this. I know I talked about it, but we've got to kind of keep looking at these and looking at these. So triumphant success is sort of winning, and that blends into, right, there's victorious, conquer. So that's where you start to get kind of a martial warring aspect to it. There's intensity, competitor, sort of a sports field, battle, but now it's warship, nuke, firearm. And then it becomes the death sort of starts to kind of appear. And it gets a little more focused, right? So this is kind of warlike stuff up here. So it's sort of big scale, and then it becomes more sort of small and more individualish kind of stuff, weaker, down to penniless here, of course. Okay. And then this other dimension, which is, it's important, but it's, as we sort of saw from the variance explained, it's 10%. So it's much smaller. Right, and it's exactly this. I kind of want to keep going back to it, right? I mean, you've got this, we've got good variance. If you sort of just have the axes as they are, that's where we start with. But you can really see if we there's a third dimension here there's not a lot of spread. And that's what we've called structure. Lots of, thinking about what this could be. And we're going to have to defend it, but unstructured goes this way, so it's a bit weird, right? The higher the number, it's less structured. The orientation of that is because this is sort of, at least for characters, a little bit of a better thing, right? There's more, I guess it's a bias of mine. This is more playful and this is more serious if you talk about people. But stone is down here, corporation, diplomat. These are very kind of rigid, maintain things. And there's messier stuff up here. And in terms of goodness, once you get out here, this is more unpredictable. So birthday, passionate, or playful, if you like. Unpredictable, playful, less structure. I mean, birthday is somewhat structured, but awesome. But then if it's bad, then we have things like that's from a hashtag nervous wreck, jitters, jumpy, abused. Things get kind of bad over here. And then organized and structured sadness, if you like, or badness is things like funeral, opposed, dictator. These are things like this. But then good, sort of organized goodness, if you like, is reliable, confidence, morale, trustworthy is kind of over there too. Okay. And you get a little, so this is now energy and structure. So, you're still going to see the same things at the top, like tickle and comical are kind of up, they're going to be in the middle, corporation and so on, and down the bottom. It's what's at the edge now. For low energy, we see couch and calm. Teddy bear is up here. For something that's unstructured and low energy. High energy and unstructured things like adrenaline and exhilarated and so on. All right. Okay, so I know I got it, but this takes a little bit of thinking about it. So the next thing was just this observation that if we rotate this plane here, leave structure. So now we've got this kind of muffin-like thing, and we're going to rotate it. Right, we're in this space. We've kind of identified this muffin thing. We sort of turn it down, so there's structure like this, and we're looking at this kind of let's say goodness this way and energy this way. Now we're going to rotate it around. We're just going to rotate it around. So it's just this one rotating and this one rotating. So this axis stays the same. This axis stays the same. And then there's this, again, looking at this for a long, long time, it sort of seems that we could use these terms. They might not be perfect, but power and danger. And this was the big observation, right? This hadn't been in one of these essential meaning things before. I mean, it's in the semantic differentials, but it wasn't identified so much as a major axis. And claim is that it really is there. So these are safe things down here, right? So angel, peace. So that safe, danger is this axis. These all have a safe thing to them. Danger is in all of these pieces up here. And it's really just this rotated, but so for example, success has been rotated down, homicide's been rotated up here, and so on, right? So that's all that's happened. But these axes are a bit more understandable, I think, and we kind of will see that play out. So power plus safe, right? So high power and safe this is kind of happiness and goodness, right? This is generous freedom. This is a good place to be. Very safe is going to be things like angel and calmness. And as we take power out, we go around to things like couch and tortoise is going to be in here and siesta. But take power out completely, you move into empty and weak. So the opposite of success is nothingness. But as you add more danger to nothingness, then it goes into, there's penniless here, but it's depressed, low shitty, mistreated. And then it gets into really dangerous stuff, which is homicide. And this region is, again, it's from up here, but it's this very, this is powerful danger, right? So depends which side you're on, I suppose. But it's like, dangerous winning is kind of in here. So this is things like earthquake, it's not shown on this, it's just a subsample, but earthquake and volcano are in there for natural phenomena. And this is then, now this is according to power and danger, right? So power is essentially goodness plus energy, like 1 over root 2, goodness plus energy, just to use the right things. The dimensions is simply a simple 1, 1, 1 minus whatever it is, 1 minus 1, 1, 1, with a 1 over root 2 matrix rotation through pi over 4. So this is just a possibility, right? This is just maybe a bit better. It's more interpretable. And I'll just say this, these are kind of where I identified this as sort of high energy and this is high goodness. And to say this is high energy is it's not enough, right? Because it's different to saying it's danger plus power, which is more stuff going on when you say danger plus power. So that has an appeal, I think. But this is okay. Right. So sort of a tour of where this word space. What we haven't done yet is look at real text, and that's where you have to go, right? So these are just lexicons. I mean, this is a lexicon, 20,000 words. We have to see how they really used in real text. Now, the a new thing, which I've talked about several times, of course, is problematic because it's this nice list of words. You look through it and think, oh, these are good words. But when you go and look at a real text, they're not really used very well. They're not used in it. It's not a good sampling of a zip distribution for that text. And that's true of, doesn't matter what it is. New York Times, Twitter, there's no great one that that works with. Okay, so this is then a large usiogram for this bottom left corner, which is the powerful, dangerous dimension. So there's a little more stuff in here, and maybe we don't have to do too much. But again, this is, serenity, just to go around it quickly, angel there and here. This is all very safe, right? Lots of safeness here. And as you come out from the middle, luncheon is a pretty safe thing. Accord stress-free, that's a hashtag. So some of this is from social media. And you see that it's good to run around this thing, right? So there's Angel, these are wonderful, trustworthy, wisdom is there, very positive. And then it starts to kind of take on a little bit more of a competitive thing. You start to feel that there's these are cooperative, you're working with someone, or groups are working with each other. Now there's an indication of us versus them. And that goes around, and you see sports are in here, like wrestler, competitor, adrenaline, but then it becomes more and more sort of militaristic, warrior, warship, firearms are in there, earthquake is up here, pretty dangerous. And then it starts to turn into really, individually dangerous sort of things. So there's suicide bombing up the top, which is from a hashtag killer, right? So these are pretty nasty things going on. I mean, the worst. You see, this is unfortunate to see, but you see obsessive masochism, poisonous, terrifying, wrath, homicide. As you go out that way, and you see this sort of pushing, right? Just pushing. It's like as you amplify out, you get to dominant or battle, right? There's that sort of trend that way. Sucking, starvation, cold, it's not so bad, but it becomes disloyal, shitty, and then you're out here with bankruptcy and suffering and these things. Chaos is here, moving down. And this is, in fact, for characters as sort of chaos agents, right? They're dangerous but weak. And then we get to void and nothingness over here, right? And as you go out this way, there's like drool, dryness, smaller, disuse, and it becomes like more towards void, inactivity, empty. So there's still a bit of that as you come around here, like tiny and slow, but then it becomes pretty comfortable. These are nice things. You never get, no. I mean, I guess tortoises are dangerous to some things, but a sofa could hurt you. But generally speaking, this is a happy place. So, all right. So what do we think of this? So it's sort of sensibly laid out. The middle ones are a little funny. Chipmunk, doesn't really register. They are weld as sometimes you wonder if people, right? I don't know. Chipmunks, and I want a small anecdote here, is that they are evil little monsters that eat baby birds, and I've seen it attack this baby robin that we'd been looking after called Subasa. I have a video of this tiny bird. I watched the chipmunk just like turn into like a little bowl of very cute ball, but it was like this little rotating ball of chipmunk and a baby robin. And I yelled at the thing and it ran away. And then I'm like, couldn't believe this. And I went in and like Googled chipmunks are evil. And it turns out, they will eat. They've got a whole story going on for themselves. There's cartoons made about them. It's complete propaganda. Little monsters. I mean, on the other side, of course, they're dopey things. Like they run around, they get at cats, and they're always like, this. I don't know if you've seen this, but they will, like talk through windows, and they're real smart asses.
Dogs do the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I mean, they get caught, but it does seem they talk smack a bit, and they're not very fast. So. Yeah, nature. What a wonderful thing. Anyway, all right. Yeah. Cutlery, liquid, bulb, oatmeal, chair, couch. Numbers are here, actually. Numbers are kind of here. But then when you get to 1,000 and million and billion, they go out this way. Numbers can hurt you. So let's see if I can get one of these slices to work. This might explode into flames. Shouldn't. Okay, so this is the power danger one. Yeah, let's get to work. Okay, so we're at the end of this this is a ridiculous amount of time. So we're going to sort of just take this kind of MRI type slices through this English muffin of meaning thing, and it's going to start at one end where so this is the power danger plane, and structures into the board, right? So this is going to be most structured, and then as we go into the board, it's going to be increasingly less structured. So corporation is the one word that's right at the end. This is the median for the whole thing. Is that right? Am I going to do that? Yeah, I think so. So we're sort of moving into this. What it is, we're sort of like the English muffin is kind of like this, and we're kind of moving through it. Right. So you see these end pieces finalized is there. This is like scattered because we're at the edge of this whole thing. What's this? Buddhism. So, structured, it's perceived to be structured. And it's a little bit on the safe side there. So we're seeing a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of bias at this end part, right? There's some slightly more powerful things, but this is very scattered. But we're starting to lose a little bit of that structure, but these are still very structured things, right? Constitution, commissioner, da da da. And now it's going to sort of build out. I'll try to have the label of the one that's in the middle. There's a psychologist is there. It's not there. And you start to see things spread out. So weapon is up there, right? So it's very structured, but it's in the powerful, dangerous one, right? And we'll get sort of the middle thing will get more boring. These will get sort of richer. Warfare is there, so this is still all very structured. Debrief, stiff, trunk, convert. These are all quite structured things. Schoolmaster, fundamental. We'll go in one more. Teachers are there. So schoolmaster was a little more structured than teacher. Ambassador, things like dictators and so on are further out, but we've still got plenty of structured pieces. Bombers, serpent. Snakes really get it, don't they? So snakes are dangerous, right? But they're not evil. I'm going to claim that they're dangerous. They have algorithms for being dangerous. Anesthesias, these are sort of thought to be sort of safe things, right? Which is interesting. Big anesthesia. And these are interesting things to play with. You can, if you want to look at them, you can do that. But I guess I'll keep going. But these are satanics at the top. Maybe a good way to do this is to look at a corner, right? So we've got satanic war, apocalypse. There's pushy, guerrilla, destroying for dangerous, right? It's getting a little messy. Murderous is now there. We're now in you can see the range. It's still, structure is up there, right? So it's still in the sort of the negative side. Dangerous, sadistic, murderer. These are some bad things. Suicide bombing is there. Kidnap, furious, toxic. It's getting a little messier. These are very negative things. Homicide. I can say this there again. Am I pressing the right thing? Murderess. Violates, stabs. Right. These are losing structure, blood. These are terrible things, aren't they? Panic now, chaos, horrified, schizophrenic. So less structured, more panicking, threatened. Drown is in there. Drunk driving. Twitchy, hostage crash. They're not as dangerous, but they start to kind of like the other end. Phobia is there. Drunk is again nervous. It's kind of getting messier. Craziness, flustered, mischief, kind of falling down. So these are increasingly less structured, and we're just sort of running out of the other end of the thing. Jitters is there. Juggling, a little bit dangerous. And then really, as we get to the end, right, there's just a few words, and they're not really too bad. Nude is an interesting one. People put it there. That's the end of that. Okay, so this is just helpful for trying to figure out what are the right words to describe the ends of this, because you do this stuff without having these words here, right? To start with, right? They kind of have come later. This was part of the exploratory stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah, so powerful, great surprise, or just go back the other way. So as it becomes more structured, rollicking, amusing, so we're taking the fun out, basically, the playfulness, right? There's lovemaking, adventure, adrenaline, celebrating. Awesome, still pretty good, celebrate, winner, success, triumphant, succeed, brave, exceptional, blah, blah, blah. Leadership, see now it's sort of losing mastermind, highness, omnipotent, empire, majesty, professionalism. We're draining the play out of it. Majority, lieutenant, all these sorts of things. There's ambassador, superiority, or supervisor, commissioner. Not as powerful, but that, that's sort of what happens there. Mm-hmm. Spent a lot of time making those. That's pretty insane. I tried to make a three-dimensional one that would kind of go through it like this and had little blocks. It was really crazy idea. It's really crazy. Like because you make a 3D convex hull, so it's sort of like this kind of potato thing, and you're trying to and you want to label the potato, right? So it's hard. It's hard. I mean, the simplest thing to do is just put the word everywhere it is, right? And then that's a disaster, as we sort of said at the start. If we try to put, we could just write and put it instead of a point, we just put the word there. Total mayhem. But yeah, so one version of this is to sort of just take, I don't know, it's too much, and I did spend way too much time trying to do that. But basically, you line it up from one end like this, and then just sort of go, and there's little cubes for the 3D histogram, and then label it in the right way. But getting labels to kind of go on different axes, I mean, it's not a Pixar operation, so much as we'd like it to be. Okay, so there are 3 of these flip books for different slices, so you can kind of get a feel for what happens as you go through them. Because again, these ones are these are basically words that are because there's this muffin thing that's been squashed like this. These ones run along the middle of that axis, so that's something to know about. So this is sort of roughly from the middle of this slice through this big blob. So we want to take all these different slices and see how it feels. Okay. These are important. Okay, so this is where we sort of can get a handle of whether things make sense with these labels. So synusionyms and antusionyms, right? You mentioned the other day. This is just a few examples. So now there's this thing where we say, okay, well, let's take a word like wisdom, and we're going to find words that are next to it in this big cloud of points. And we have these 3 different structures. We have valence, the VAD one, the GES one, and the PDS one. So they're all, within these words are the 4 closest words, and of course the numbers are going to be similar in each framework. But what it means then, these don't have the same meaning. It just means if you boil everything off and you're left with this power, danger, and structure, or however you want to, whichever coordinate system you want to use, these are the things that are closest to it. So, and it's reasonable, right? And then the antusionyms are kind of interesting things because they, for example, power, the opposite of that was nothingness, not failure. The opposite of success is not failure. It is perhaps as an antonym, but in terms of what's essentially in it, it's nothingness, void. Which I found that's part of why that kind of orientation around to what became the power axis seemed attractive initially, because it's like success was this way and nothingness was this way. That seemed like a good way to orient it. It seemed meaningful. And in terms of developing this, gave up on that for a while. It's like, all right, this is madness, blah, blah, blah. And then, but I'll show you that it makes sense. Yeah, so these are words that are not, these are not opposite in full meaning, of course, to wisdom, but they are in terms of, these are bad things. So this is really, wisdom is, if you look at it, it's kind of, you see this here, it's very much lined up in the power danger. This is in this corner down here, and you can see it most clearly over here. It's really on the goodness axis, and it doesn't really register much here on energy. Negative structure means it's structured. It has some form to it. So that's there. So it's useful really to sort of maintain these things, but it's really kind of a power minus danger kind of word, which is where happiness is. So happiness is power plus safety or power minus danger. Yeah, and then the opposites are, they're not directly there, but they're the things that are, once you just go through the origin, what's the closest to it, and the closest to is bullshit, which isn't seems okay. Um, success is near things like almighty, triumphant, victorious, and then the opposite of it is, like I said, void and empty. Sorrow is there too, actually, tasteless, idle. So sort of the kind of nothingness. There's sorrow is a good one to add in there as well. And you can kind of look to see which ones they line up on. They're pretty balanced here with goodness and energy. Goodness plus energy is power, right? So not much in the danger safety thing, not much in structure, really lined up with the power axis. Volcanic. So you can see this, it's an interesting one, right? So there's military stuff and then just wild. Wild's interesting. When the word wild to you, what does it sort of mean if you had it in? Because if you say you're wild about something, it means you're. This is in Australia. Sorry, it means you at least a while ago. It would mean you're angry. I'm wild about that. There's wild about it means it's awesome. Totally wild about it. Okay, so wild is like more like the wild, right? Yeah. Did it get that on it? It does depend on the so it didn't really pop up as which is interesting, but definitely danger and power. So it's definitely in this, it's in the category of the wild, like nature. The Werner Herzog conception of nature, at least, overwhelming and collective murder. Um, so, but mixed in with the fun things that we have made as humans, and then the opposite of these lovely things here, right? There's a tortoise and a pillow or a couch. A tortoise on a couch with a quilt would be pretty much optimal safety. So these are, you see it here. It's like it really is lined up with that energy axis, which is, it's like not very strong here, but which really puts it in that powerful, dangerous thing. So it's much more. This is where these sort of the we're using words to describe words. It's just how do dictionaries work? It's madness. How does anything make any sense? But this is powerful, dangerous is a much better framing than high energy. Yes, they have high energy, but the energy is really just sort of the intensity out that way. But it's powerful and dangerous. That's what these things are, and these are safe and weak. Homicide. So this is straight up dangerous, right? So you see it here, very little here. Really just straight on the danger thing. You might think this has power in it, but not really. Like homicide amplified, which is war, that has power. This is a little more neutral, and this is where some of the worst characters in stories are, right? Like Joker and Voldemort and so on. They're Bellatrix Lestrange. They're kind of they're dangerous, but they're not super powerful. Right? They don't win all the time. And as you kind of move around this way, you get into chaos agents. So, yeah, I mean, I think of this as a compass, right? All right, so these all kind of are connected. Again, different. Violate is not homicide, right? But if you sort of at least, from this kind of approach, draw it down to its essence, they kind of match up. And then, these are different to couch and these things. These are weak and safe. These are a little more neutral. These are neutral and power. These are just kind of very safe things. They've got a little more power than these, right? So tortoise, as you kind of move around, you get to things like serenity. There's something stronger about that, which I think is fair. So, in some ways, this was sort of just leading through all of this, and it just depends what we see in real data now as to whether any of this makes sense. This is a little bit more about the naming. This, if you go back and, I mean, etymology, it's important that you can't, control, say words should mean this because it's what they used to mean, blah, blah, blah. That's problematic, but it is nice to see things traced through at least reasonably well. Power was sometimes called activity in physics, right? So this is a straight up, as in wattage kind of power. This is an interesting one. So danger and dominance. So danger is sort of the straight up one. Dominance is here. It's power plus danger. They go back to dominance. They actually have the same origin. So lord, ruler, person of power. And I think house is in there as well. Right. So as we've talked about, these framings matter so much, and it's really complicated. So early things were sort of, again, rotating this thing around and trying to like figure out what the words were and building these oozeograms: success, stress, and structure, which was kind of nice because it's alliteration. But then you have three S's, and that's going to be, you're in a lot of trouble because you've got to at least make some variable names at some point, and we could kind of do it, put subscript success and stress, I guess, but this wasn't bad. But success is a bit. This one we kind of held on to. This one lines up reasonably with danger, but danger, I think, elicits what it is more. Success is a bit of a human thing, so that is maybe a little problematic. I mean, we could say a cat had some success in getting treats out of you, fine, but a volcano being successful doesn't work. A volcano being powerful, yes. So part of it was like just abstract, like trying to figure out these things. Energy flourishing, thriving. So threat was another, like was threat. And then you want to say, are these words, if we actually look at where they are located in this space, in the right place? Danger is good, powerful is good, and weakness is good. They're really lined up. Safe is a little bit into the power kind of quadrant. So it's not bad, but dangerous, safe works conceptually. You could say low danger. Yeah, ordered, like order, chaos, gravity, seriousness. It could be power this way. There's kind of, it could be, whether something's chaotic, but that's not quite right either. It's really danger is a more clear thing. Anyway, so these are the ones that we sort of have, and we're maintaining. I think we'll hold. These are how they're connected to each other. As I said, power and danger was just a simple observational rotation of goodness and energy. But you can see how this works. So goodness, energy, structure, right? So goodness, which is sort of this happiness thing, it's a lot of valence, but you subtract out some activity and you add some of this dominance thing. So that gives you goodness. These are useful things to look at. They're just, you flip them. These are orthonormal transformations. So energy, it's a little, you take away a little bit of happiness. It's a lot of arousal, but it's also dominance, right? So that's that correlation between those things coming through. Structure, and again, these are right-angled things, right? This is an orthogonal system over here. These are correlated. Structure, it's a good mix of like valence, like positivity and activity, right? And structure, as it increases, becomes more unstructured, right? Which is problematic. But so playfulness, if you like, think of it as, say, play, then that's happiness plus activity minus this kind of dominance piece. So you take out the control. So it's like happiness plus energy minus control is structure. And then this is just a rotation in here to get to this one, but we can, see it. So power is really a bit of everything, right? Valence, arousal, and dominance. Because this thing they're all correlated in this way, and it picks that out nicely. Danger has this kind of nice balance here. So danger is minus happiness plus activity. Dominance is pretty neutral in that one. And then structure is the same as it was before. So they're sort of interpretable things. But yeah, danger coming out as like being basically like energy without happiness. Okay, not bad. And power, you want a bit of you want happiness, you want activity, and you want control. Like that gives you success. Sort of reasonable. You want all of those things popping up. Okay, so this is, and I'll just pop it up here, and we'll talk about it more on Thursday. So we've just done the lexicon, as I've tried to say. We have to talk about tokens. So this is types. We have to talk about tokens. This is rarely, rarely, rarely done. Like basically never, I think. We did in this 2015 paper in PNAS for, looking at with the jellyfish plot stuff and all that sort of thing. So we need to look at usage frequency, and there's a bunch of different things we're going to look at. 120 years of Google Books, which, it's problematic, but it's a corpus we can play with. English fiction in that case. We've showed that English as a whole is a bit problematic. Problematic. Jane Austen's novels, six put together. Sherlock Holmes stories, there are a couple we couldn't get hold of because of copyright. Not that should stop us. New York Times, Wikipedia, just one dump of the Wikipedia. 20 years in the New York Times. So in this case, it's not amplified by how popular each story was or how popular these stories were. So it's at that level. Twitter is, right? Twitter is something where because of retweets, you can see what got amplified. Radio talk is an interesting one. This is transcriptions of talk radio. So it's everything from, NPR to Shock Jock kind of stuff. NPR. The voices, it's amazing. Right, and as I said, Wikipedia is an interesting other piece. All right, so this will give you an idea of what happens then. So it's the same pictures we had before. This is going to be for English fiction, Google Books. It's the same thing, but now the histograms have frequency of usage in them, right? So not just one vote for each word. The boxes here now have, they have a word gets the number of counts or whatever relative frequency that's used goes into the box. And so you can see that, all of the underlying things are still the same, right? These SVD ellipses, you can see it's not lining up well here or here or here. When we go to the goodness energy one, it's not lined up well here. It's a little bit smooshed across here into the goodness side, a little bit on the low energy side, but still not so great. This may not seem so compelling to you, but once you rotate around to power, right, so we're going to rotate this thing around, you see that this there's a bias towards safe words or low danger words. It's a little more spread out when we go to power and structure. And when we do danger and structure, we see that low danger words again. So this, right, so we have this kind of English muffin. Now we're kind of amplifying it by frequency of usage. This is one data set. It's, and we, of course, sort of added them one at a time, curated them, added them one at a time. They could have all looked different, but they don't really. This is Jane Austen's novels. They're going to have different things, but basically I want to, if you look between them roughly, different things, there's less words in this as a whole, so it's not as strong, but that same kind of thing is popping up here. This is Sherlock Holmes, similar. That one I think is an error. This is New York Times. Boom. You see again the big splat here. It's off axis. It's off wrong thing here. This is Wikipedia. So we didn't do this, we didn't create this rotation because we saw this. This came afterwards. So it was kind of shocking to see it kind of work in any way. What we had before is the happiness bias, and that's because we were projecting onto this axis here. So this, or if you like, this axis here, the goodness axis. So we're projecting. So yes, there is a positive bias for goodness, but it's really because it's a shadow of a deeper thing, which is safety. This is radio talk. So this is, again, completely different thing. It's people talking, it's transcripts. And that's Twitter. Again, completely different, but it has the amplification built in, and you see that same sort of thing, and that piece here, and then they should be all in the same plot. You can keep going and keep going, keep going. There's maybe a little bit of a bias towards power in some of these. So this is the median here, that's neutral. You can see the distribution here. These are safer words here. The median is here. It's clear, right? Again, that distribution. Again, that distribution. These are the marginals. Pretty neutral here. Pretty neutral here. A little bit on the positive side. Sherlock Holmes is actually the median is in the middle. it's very even that way, but again, a safety bias, skewed this way here and skewed this way here. So this seems to be a big story, right? So I think so it tells us that it suggests to us that the power danger framework is, the sort of the key one. It's the right, we've rotated this thing around in space, and then we're going, and like when we do that, it goes, and this is the unlocking of this thing. So, and so we expect to see this in, more text. Maybe not. I mean, it could, for smaller text or whatever, it could be aberrant. That's interesting. Yeah. There was a little glitch in there. Sherlock Holmes. That one. Yeah, I don't think it's there anymore. Okay, yeah, that I don't know what's wrong with that other figure. Okay, so I think something got counted the wrong way. So this is it's a big, and then it sort of feeds back into like, what are we doing with language, right? We're communicating with each other. Where it's this sharing of knowledge that I'm poorly doing right now, but it's a remarkable achievement, right? And then of course words, right? We're writing them down and having things encoded and being able to make sense of that is a phenomenal kind of achievement. I mean, animals can do it too, but we've gotten we've gotten a long way. There is this essence in here of survival, right? Because this is how we've sort of mapped out meaning space in this very essential way. You can see that this. I mean, I think we can argue or postulate that organisms, kind of at all scales, like life in a way, has to develop this compass, because you need to be able to, right, through whatever sensing and so on. The safety danger axis is really paramount. Do you go towards or away from something? And it's not because it's good or bad. It's really that it's a safe thing. So, a sleeping snake is dangerous, but it's here. One that's coming at you is here. So you can, and then, we have a lot of, I mean, if you just think about people, we have fear and all these, and anger and sadness, these responses, these big level responses, they're helping us act when we see something in these different spaces. So we have some pretty nuanced kind of responses to what if we see something in the dangerous category. So that's the bigger thing. With this work, which will come out hopefully soon, depends on me being functional, but that Julia's led, and from a completely different thing, we see the same sort of framework for characters and completely different data sets. So that's, again, really compelling. But I think this, it took a large, getting to large data sets, a better way of measuring things. And it doesn't really matter how the axes are described, as long as they're described in the same way to people, right? Like the semantic differentials, like here's valence. We want you to think on this end, it's this end, and it's this on this end, blah, blah, blah. Just let that happen. Then you have to do something like SVD or PCA on top of it afterwards. These visualizations help us sort through what is really difficult otherwise. I know people have done it in the past, but it's really hard to. You can kind of make lists maybe and so on and sort of inspect them, but it's it was the way to make these oozeograms made the thing talk. Okay, so now we can instrument this and do ooziometer type things and measure power and danger. And we'll talk about that on Thursday, and I'll get that into a problem set for you guys. So you can work with on your. Did you play around with it? Not yet. Yeah. Could you download it? Okay. Yeah. Because we had some problems with the website, but I think it's the broader website. Anyway. Okay. So yeah, I'm finally able to do a few things. I'm messing around with the Pratchett books. So I finally turned them into little narrative time series. So I'm excited about that. Where is that? I know it's time to go. Let me, yeah, this is fun. Let me, yeah, so this narrative time series. So like, for example, uh, this is the Hogfather. So it's just going to be this kind of thing, right? Boop, 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 right? Turned into a little thing. Everything starts somewhere, although many physicists disagree. um, but let me see. I think it's this one. Oh, no, no, no. I want the combined. Yeah. I'll show you one thing. So this is just 1 gram. Yeah, very typical kind of ZIF distribution kind of business, right? The, a, and of it. As usual, this is like 20% of all the words are made out of maybe the top 6. But I think, so one thing I'm really interested in us doing well is, so Commander Vimes, Sam Vimes is the main character. How many mentions is next to sort of into and by and when, very, very high up, is doing something that, figuring out good ways to, maybe this is all done, but, a lot of these techniques aren't great. How to extract the character names from a work. It's easy if you have well done TV transcripts because it just says name, 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 name. You know who speaks, right? I know you guys have thought, but this was sort of an interesting thing to do. Like, how do you sort of automatically get out the names of people? I don't. It's an interesting challenge. It's like just the word said because we use that, so that helps a little bit. Like who actually speaks, maybe that helps as well. Um, Capitalization is important. That's part of it. But they, the I've seen this with some other visualizations I've done, like actually for Jane Austen, like the names of characters really pop, and Harry Potter, they really kind of pop out in a weird, disproportionate way. So there should be a way to do it automatically. It's not crucial, but an interesting thing to think of. Anyway, but you can get the power and danger sequence for all of these things and structure and it's useful to not, to have power plus danger as well, right? So we've started to do that. I will, let's just look at one of these and then we'll go. This is going to be, we've started to get this to work. So this is danger, for example, in English. It's the scales aren't right. So it's still sort of just coming into existence. There's some data missing. But this is, for example, that's George Floyd's murder is here. And this is January 6th. Yeah. So January 6th, and you see, is that right? No. Right? What am I talking about? Yeah. Is it the next? Okay, so there's something a little. Okay, the coloring makes it a little weird. Okay, so danger is up. Yeah, danger is up. Of course, right. Sorry. So these are all words that mean dangerous, right? So police violence, Trump terrorists, da 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 da. Yeah. So it just exploded on that day. There are some some low danger words that are being used less, but things like Happy New Year is one of those. So it's kind of working. What's the whole? Yeah, so we're missing some data here, and this has to be a smaller range. But let's see. We'll finish with this. This is a lot. Yeah, yeah, Ukrainian. Oh my God. So we'll have power and danger for them as well. But this is basically the goodness dimension. It's power minus danger. But yeah, going along. Just this is Crimea being annexed by Russia and then smashed, and then this is what happens when you have a war. Okay, I mean, look, it's a big deal to get to this so it's the safety bias, which is a funny way to say it, I suppose, but we have that. Positivity bias, this Pollyanna bias, that's been seen for many, many years and talked about in many, many different contexts, but I think what it really is a safety bias. So a preference for low danger kind of words. Okay, people. All right, I'll try to get you something to work with. But yeah, like I said, yesterday was the first day in 5 weeks that I felt functional at all. So for a full day. So, all right, well, thanks for being here. And yeah.